Hey, all right, we're getting rolling, getting all the streams set up. Awesome. Cool. Looks like we are good to go. Set up. All right, let's do it. Welcome to the November Q&A. Glad you guys could make it. Looks like people are just starting to pour in. Um, if you guys have questions, I've got my list of questions that people sent over early at blakeswanee.com/ask. And I'll be going through those. But if you got questions and you're actually on the call and you put them in the chat, I will prioritize those to make sure you guys get what you need for investing. You get VIP service if you're actually here on the call in the Zoom. So if you're watching us on YouTube or somewhere else, you can go to Rentals2Wealth, our free real estate investing community. That's at school.com, SKOOL.com/rentals2wealth, the number two. So rentals, the number two, wealth. Join there in the calendar section. You can jump in the Zoom call. So if that's something, if you want to actually get your questions, your specific questions answered, send them over here in the chat and I'll get you guys taken care of. Otherwise, I'm just going to go through the questions that we've already got, people that have sent them over ahead of time, and I'll get you taken care of. For those that don't know, my name is Blake Choisnet, the founder of the Rental Roadmap, the 90-day rental roadmap. I started off investing in real estate, had no idea what I was doing, no experience, no nothing. I wasn't a rehab expert, didn't know anything. I lived in a terrible market. Everything that was going wrong that's essentially where I started. I didn't have much time, didn't have any money to get started. I lived in a terrible market. All of those things, all of like the mission critical things that you think are associated with, failure to start or whatever it is, failure to launch. That's what I experienced. So after I started investing, built a multi-million dollar portfolio in 18 months, retired in 24 months, self-made millionaire in less than 5 years, and you can do it too. It's a system, it's a process. It's not an art, it's a science, and you just have to know what that process is. And so with that, we'll go ahead and hop in. Again, if you guys have questions both about your real estate journey, about any real estate strategies, or if you got questions about my journey or the rental roadmap, I'm happy to answer all of them. Um, all right, here we go. So let me get into all of let's see, the Q&As. All right. How much money do I need to get started? That's a great question. You don't need $100,000 to get started investing in real estate. You just absolutely don't. I've worked with people that have had zero money to get started, but certainly your strategy that you define, the strategy that you decide to move forward with, has to take into account your goals and your constraints. So if your goals are passive income and cash flow, then your strategy should serve passive income and cash flow. All right. Like for example, if your goals are, I want to get a six pack or I want to lose weight or whatever it is on the health side of things, then your strategy can't be sit around and eat potato chips. All right. And it probably needs to be, if it's really, really cutting fat, I mean, it's probably some type of HIIT workout or it's probably some type of cardio centric workout. And it probably includes things that you're eating or not eating. So you have to have your goals aligned. Your strategy has to be aligned with your goals. So first, you got to figure out, what are my goals? Do I want passive income? Do I want cash flow? Do I want high appreciation? Am I okay with negative cash flow in order to get higher appreciation? Do I want wealth? Do I want tax advantages? But all of those things that I just listed, put them in order. And the ones at top, you've got to discern, you got to define what strategy works with that. If you got any questions on that, I've got a free training, the 7-day fast start in the Rentals to Wealth. I go through all of the strategies the primary strategies that you consider, what they're right for, who they're right for, and who they're not right for, so that you don't waste a bunch of time. Because one of the other questions that I saw up here was, I'm afraid to waste time on the wrong thing. What do I do? And so this will give you some feedback there too. But So all that to say, you know, you don't need a bunch of money to get started. I think if you've got 5 grand set aside or 10 grand on the side, I think that's enough to get started. And the only reason I say that amount of money is because it's a confidence thing. It's a confidence money thing. So what it allows you to do is make some decisions that you know aren't going to affect your ability to eat or your ability to provide for your kids or your family. And you could do it with zero if you really, really wanted to. It just it requires a little bit more constraint or discernment on your deals. So, for example, if you're starting out with $100,000 or $500,000, you can make some mistakes. It's not that big a deal. But if you're starting out with $500 in your bank account, then you've got to be a lot more strict and discerning on your deal analysis process. That's just the reality of it. So, um, the reason I say $5,000 to $10,000 is because one, gives you a little bit of buffer. You got some confidence money. And two, it indicates that you're good with money, like that you're actually managing money decently well. Because what real estate investing is right for is somebody that has some predictable income and they're good at managing money already. What it's not right for is somebody that's trying to figure out how am I going to make ends meet next month? How am I going to, or most strategies in real estate, how am I going to make ends meet next month? Or they're in tons of credit card debt. It's not a get rich quick situation. So if you don't know how to manage money, you should go to Dave Ramsey University. Then once you graduate Dave Ramsey University, you know how to manage money and be responsible with it. Then you move over to Robert Kiyosaki University and you start investing in real estate and putting your money into assets. So if you're at that point, you've got a reliable job, you know money's coming in, you're in a good spot, and you got 5 grand on the side, maybe 10 grand on the side, not even earmarked for real estate, just there. I think that's a completely reasonable amount. The more money you've got, the more flexibility you have, because your strategy is defined first by your goals and then second by your constraints, and your constraints are time and money. So the money constraint is the more money you have, the more generous you can be with your decisions. And when I say generous, I just mean the more flexible you can be with your decisions, the more mistakes that you can make. And on the time side of things, if you got 40 hours a week to do it, great. You got access to a couple other strategies, but most people don't have that. The people I work with, they're putting 3 to 6 hours a week into it. So it's not like you're doing this all the time, all day, every day. It's got to be one of your top priorities, but you don't have to be doing this 20, 30, 40 hours. You're not knocking on doors, right? Your goal is to build systems to where you don't have to do that and it can operate without you. So that's what I'd say on the money side of things. You do not need $100,000 to get started. You don't even need $50,000 to get started. But you do have to have the right strategy that caters to your goals. So a strategy like that for somebody who wants cash flow, they want appreciation in the long term, but they're okay with it being a little bit more moderate. But cash flow is their priority, and they're lower on money and need a reasonable amount of time, say 3 to 6 hours a week. I recommend the Burr model. For those that aren't familiar with the Burr model, it's an acronym. It's a B and 4 R's. I'll tell you what that stands for here in just a minute. But the Burr model, it's the cousin of the flip. And so if you think of like two cousins, or maybe even brothers, they're very, very similar in a lot of ways, but one is really good at one thing and one's really good at another. One's really good at art, one's really good at sports, one's really good at writing, one's really good at music, whatever it is. That's what this is. So the flip, what you're doing is you're buying a property and you're putting money into it in order to force the appreciation northward, upward, so that you can walk away with that money. So let's say you buy a house at 80, you put 40 into it, and now it's worth 200, right? You get to walk away with that money. All right, you get to walk away with that. What is it? $80,000, right? The average flip in America is something like $63,000 right now. So you get to walk away with that money. The key component there is with a flip, you walk away with the money. You sell the property and you make the decision. You say, I want the money now instead of the cash flow and the wealth creation. So that's one way to do it. The other way is if you care about the cash flow and the wealth creation, then what you've got to do is you got to keep that property. So you go over to a lender, a mortgage lender, and say, I want to refinance this loan because you borrowed the 80 plus 40 to get into it. All right. So you buy it and you rehab it with somebody else's money. And if you got the money to finance it yourself, great. But most people don't. And so you borrow that money to get into it. That's your first loan. When you refinance, most people think you need 20% down to buy a property. You do not. The bank doesn't care about 20% down. The bank fundamentally does not care about 20% down. They care about what they loan on the property. They care about what they loan on the property. It's kind of like, when you're younger, at least my experience with my dad was, I said, Dad, these sneakers right here, they're what, $100 sneakers or whatever. They're 40% off. right? Because we only shop at like, pay less or like they're 40% off. So you're saving 40 bucks by buying me these sneakers because they're awesome and I want them. And he says, no, I'm saving 100 bucks, but I'm not buying them at all. All right. He cares about what comes out of his pocket. The reason we think about 20% down is because we care about what comes out of our pocket. The same is true of the bank. So the bank cares about 80%, not 20%. They will loan 80% of the value of the home. So if that home's worth 200, they're going to loan $160,000 on it. Then you think, well, I got to come up with the 20% down. No, you don't. You think about 20% down because that's what comes out of your pocket, right? So if you've already flipped the property and you put money into it and you forced the value northward, when you bought it for 80 plus 40 because the 80 was what you paid for it and 40 was your rehab. You got a little bit of holding costs in there as well, but a few $1,000s. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars here. So, but the bank says, well, we can only lend you $160,000 on this. You're like, great, I only owe 120, $125,000. So then you use that new loan to pay off the original loan. Now you've got a property just like you put 20% down on it. It's the exact same thing as if you put 20% down on it. And you got a long-term loan, 30-year loan, where you're paying it off every single month because the tenant is paying it off. So on a property like that, let's say, to use round numbers, let's say you bought it at 50, put 20 into it, and now it's worth 100. And those deals are all over the place. Um, that mortgage payment probably going to be 500 bucks a month, but you'll rent something like that out for 1,500 bucks a month. So about a third is going to your mortgage payment, your monthly payment, and then about another, call it another third going to ancillary expenses, whether it's real and actual expenses or it's phantom expenses, things that you know are going to happen, but you just don't know when. Like HVAC's going to go out, like it's saving for a rainy day. All right. So when someone says, I just bought this turnkey single family 1,400 square foot house, I'm cash flowing 900 bucks a month, they're just lying to you. That's a vanity number. The actual cash flow number includes rent minus all expenses. So it's either a vanity number or they don't understand how to underwrite deals. They don't understand what the actual costs are in a real estate deal. And most of the time that's because they actually haven't bought a property, or maybe this is their first property and they don't understand the actual expenses that are going into it. So that's the reason I say, like, if if your constraint is money and you have a lower amount to put into it, then the Burr model makes a lot of sense. My recommendation is if you got 50 grand or more that you want to put into real estate, you should start with a turnkey deal. First, you got to find a really good market, a market that actually cash flows and fits your needs. Then you want to put some money into some real estate. And the reason I recommend turnkey, yeah, it's simple, it's easy, but that's the benefit is it's simple and easy because you just put 20% down. But what this allows you to do is it proves out 70 or 80% of the entire process. So you prove out your market, you prove out your team, your local, you got a property manager now, you got an agent, even practical things like when rent is paid, it hits your bank account, right? Like all of that stuff set up. Then as you need something more scalable, you move into the Burr model. And now you can scale while 80% of everything's already built out. You just got to focus on how do I predict and manage rehab and how do I predict the future value of the home and refinance it. That's it. And you can focus more locally on those things. So that's what I recommend for people getting started that say like, oh, man, I don't have a ton of money, to get started. How could I reasonably do this? And I mean, that also brings up another thing where most people that I work with, they didn't grow up in a world where other people did this, like that this was normal. Right? Like, buying properties is crazy to most people. It certainly was for me. I thought it would be awesome if I got to own my own home one day. And now I own tons of homes. And it feeds my family and it provides for us. And the reality is once you get around people that are doing this stuff, it's just normal. And so that's part of the benefit of having an actual community like Rentals to Wealth or the Rental Roadmap community that all these people are all focused on the same thing. And you see people closing on 10 doors in their first year. Like Dean, one of the guys in our group, he closed on his goal was 10 doors in his first 12 months, and I think he ended up hitting 18 or something like that. Now he's full-time real estate. He started a couple other businesses. He was working 80 hours a week with his oil and gas job and missing all of his kids, or he didn't even have a high school degree, and he's killing it. So that's just a testament to it's completely doable, but it's really helpful to be around people that are doing the same thing because I believe you can't be it if you can't see it. All right. So I believe this has been really on my heart and on my mind since having kids. We've got a 3.5-year-old, we got a newborn here at home, and my two sons. If they can't see it, they can't be it. If they can't see somebody be faithful to their mom, then how can I expect them to be faithful to their spouse? They can't see someone be patient, if they can't see somebody be strong and clever, then how are they going to do that? And so most of those things they're going to get from me and from Brittany, my wife. But where I lack in those areas, I want to make sure that they've got good, strong figures for them to look at and see how to do it. So that's what I'd say on that side. Just yeah. There's another question is, can I actually do this? Can I actually do this? That's we would have to get into each individual if you're on the call and you can send over some details, send over some additional details because really that question's a little bit loaded, right? Because you're asking, can I do it? Can my specific situation do it? And I would say 95% of the time the answer is yes. If you're good at managing your money and your finances aren't like drowning and your credit card debt is growing every single month, then and you're of sound body and mind, yes, you can do this. 100%. Like it's not rocket science. It really isn't. It's simple and reproducible. And that's what kept me from getting started for the longest time is I thought that it was like this mystical thing. And I was like, I don't know how to make things pretty or, what throw pillows I should put on the bed or whatever. Like that's just not my sweet spot. I'm more analytical. And with that comes its own challenges, but it's more of a simple and reproducible process. So hopefully that answers your question on the money side of things. Another question, I'm scared of looking stupid if I ask too many questions or do the wrong thing. Now, that makes sense. I would say that, there's a few, maybe, I don't know, six, seven reasons that keep people from starting in real estate. And most of them at their core, it's fear. I'd say 99% of the time it's fear. And it should be. It should be fear because the thing that you're pursuing is really fundamentally related to your hopes and dreams and all your goals, right? So you're saying, the reason I want to do this is I want to be a better father. I want to be a better mother. I want to be more present. I want to start the nonprofit. I want to help my kids more. I want to be there for my kids more. I want whatever those things are. Those are really fundamental to who you believe that you are and who you know that you can be. And so you say, well, what's the strategy for me to get there? Is real estate or it's whatever it is, whatever that thing is. Of course, you should be scared because the implications of it going wrong or going poorly are really bad, and they affect something really substantially. Whereas if you didn't really care about it, it wouldn't matter. You wouldn't be scared about it. So being scared of something, that's actually a really good indicator that you're moving in the right direction. There's a fascinating book, The Obstacle is the Way. And one of the things that posits is whatever the obstacle is, or the things that's scary, or the thing that's causing a problem, that's really where you need to focus, and that's where the biggest result comes from. So that's what I'd say. I mean, like, yeah, you should be scared of doing the wrong thing because the thing that you're focused on is so important to you. But you shouldn't be scared of doing the wrong thing because it's impossible or you'll never be able to do it, or it's not that significant of a cost. When we think about risk, this question really at its root comes down to risk. Like, what risk am I taking on? And most people greatly inflate the risk associated with real estate investing because they don't actually know what fundamentally underlies risk. Risk is a function of two things. One, the two things it's a function. In fact, if anybody, let me get some guesses over in the chat. The two things that, and then Martin, I'll come to your question later, but the two things that risk is a function of, the two things that it makes it up. Give me some guesses, and we'll give some thumbs up or some gold stars or something like that to people who to get the right answer. Two things that it's a function of. So you might say, well, when I think of risk, what do I think of? I think, well, it's scary. Like, what if it goes wrong? Right? What if it goes wrong? And when you ask that question, what if it goes wrong? There's two main components of that question. What if and wrong. Right. So when you say it goes wrong, you mean how bad does it hurt? What's the pain? All right. What is it actually going to cost me if it goes wrong? And the other is what if? So what's the probability that that's going to happen? So if we think about risk, it's a function of probability and pain. So what's the likelihood it's going to go wrong, and what does it cost if it goes wrong? Because the reason why you're not scared of something that has a low cost of it going wrong, let's say you order a different meal at your favorite burger place. You get a different meal when you know that the burger is like the one that you love. You get something else. Your worst case, the meal is fine. Like, it's good. It's just not elite the way that you're used to it. That's a pretty good worst case scenario. All right. That's why you're not scared to make that decision, because the probability of it going wrong, while it might be significant, call it 80%, 60%, whatever it is, the likely or the cost of it going wrong is almost zero. It's there's almost no negative experience there. Whereas if you look at, say, flying on an airplane, this is a really good example of risk as well. What happens? What's the cost of flying on an airplane if it goes wrong? You die. All right, you're not going to survive a commercial jetliner crash. So why do people fly on airplanes then? All right, why do they do that? Well, because it's something like 1 in 11 million. All right, it's something like 500 times safer to fly than it is to drive from a mortality standpoint. So why do people do it? Well, because the likelihood is so low that that's going to happen. So when we think about real estate investing, or really anything, because there's risk in everything. There's risk in having kids. There's risk in getting married. There's risk in taking the job. There's risk in leaving the job. There's risk, all of those things. There's risk in taking out your trash. We have to understand what's the pain that is the cost, and what's the probability, the likelihood that that's actually going to be experienced. And with real estate, I'm scared of the what if. If you think about the Burr model, let's give a really practical example. What we're going to do is we're going to say, what are the variables that could change, and then ascribe a number to them. So what's the cost if that did go bad? And then we're going to pick something that is unlikely to happen. And then we're going to make it as unlikely as possible to where we can say, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. Then we've got a cost associated with it. All right. So what we're doing is we're putting a dollar value to cost or to the risk. So let's say, let's use the same numbers as before. Let's say you're buying a property for $50,000 and you're putting 20 grand into it, and it's now worth $100,000. That's your pro forma, right? That's your underwriting and everything says that's the most likely scenario. So what can change? Well, the purchase price isn't going to change. You don't get to go back and say, "Hey, my deal sucked. You're like, can you give me some money back?" And the same is true about if it goes really, really well. You don't go back and say, "Hey, it went really well. Here's an extra 6 grand." So then what variables are left? Well, the future value of the home, the ARV, and the rehab. So let's pick a really unlikely scenario. Let's say that your rehab comes in 50% over budget, which is pretty crazy. Like that's a really high number. 50% over budget, 5% over, 10% over, okay, but 50% over budget, that's pretty big. If you go 50% over budget, what is that on this deal? Okay, so you bought it for 50, now you're all in at 80, right? Because now instead of $20,000 rehab, 50% over, that's $30,000 a rehab. And if you do your due diligence, $10,000 on a 1,400 square foot house, that is a lot. That's like a full roof replacement. And probably you could probably do a full roof and full HVAC replacement on a property like that for $10,000. That's crazy. Like that's massive oversight. So that's very unlikely to happen. Now you're all in at 80, but you've got a $100,000 asset. Pretty good situation, right? Now, okay, maybe that's not bad enough or that's not unlikely enough. So you say, well, let's make it even more unlikely. Let's say that we're off on our future value prediction, right? Our ARV. Let's say we're 10% off, which is pretty significant. Being $10,000 off on a $100,000 property. If you know how to run comps and you know how to actually underwrite these deals, that's a pretty significant thing. That on itself is unlikely. But then you combine it with the other one, it's very, very unlikely both of these things happen. This is like your perfect storm. If both of these things happen, it's so unlikely to happen. So you're all in at $80,000. Now your ARV's off as well. Super unlikely, but let's just say it happens. Now your property's worth what? 90. So your worst case scenario, your absolute worst case scenario is you're all in at 80 and you got a $90,000 asset. You just sell it and you make $5,000 or so after sales costs. You walk away, you get paid for a failure, right? If I got paid $3,000 or $5,000 for every time I failed, I'd be a billionaire by now. All right. So that's when we talk about the risk profile of real estate, that's the reality is it's far less risky than you think. And if you just understand what components go into risk, it can make your job and your life a lot easier. And you think about risk that way in your life and you develop this habit of saying, well, what's the cost? What's the pain? And what's the probability or the likelihood? Those are the two functions of risk. Let's put a number to it and say, am I okay with that? And then it makes all your decisions easier because most people stop when they say, what if? They just leave it out there. And when you just leave something out there and you don't answer the question, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like a task that you're avoiding, right? It can be a really small task, but as you avoid it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger in your mind and in your perception. And so if you just answer that question, what if it goes wrong? Just answer the question. Okay, well, what could go wrong and how bad would that hurt? All right, put those numbers together and now you got your risk. So if you do that, you're going to save yourself a ton of time and a ton of money and a ton of heartache too. And it'll make your life a lot easier. So cost assistant, the process before. Okay. So Martin, let me know, what do you mean by the process that's involved? What do you mean by that? Do you mean the Burr process? Do you mean the rental roadmap? Give me some clarification there. And you're good, man. You can set that right here. And I'll get that taken care of. I'll get you an answer, Martin, if you can clarify whether you're talking about the Burr process or if you're talking about the rental roadmap. Because I want to make sure I don't, like a marketing deal. Like most of the, I don't know, in my experience, most of the people, whenever you join like a Q&A or something like that, it's like 90% them just marketing their stuff and saying, hey, come buy my stuff. Some people have normal hobbies. Real estate's just awesome, and I really, really enjoy it. And so it's completely changed and transformed our life. And so I want to help people make progress toward that end. Um, so yeah, Martin, once you send over any any clarification on that, I'm happy to help answer your question. Until then, I'll just keep going through the rest of the rest of the questions. All righty. All righty. Okay. Jay's got his hand raised. Hey, Jay, send over your question in the chat box, and I'll get it answered for you. That way we can process through everything the best. All right, cool. So next, how do you find and vet contractors? Great question. So whenever you're investing remotely, you're not there. All right. So you're not there to actually be able to find and vet those contractors. And for people that say like, if you're thinking, man, investing remotely, that's freaking crazy. How could you possibly do that? The reality is that even if you're investing, first of all, if you're investing in your own market, 90% of America lives in a terrible cash flow market. So if you want cash flow, you're screwed out the gate. All right. It's like, I mentioned I got boys at home. They're growing out of everything that they're wearing. And golly, like every picture I see of my son Brandon, it looks like he's twice as big as he was the last time I saw him. So if my wife, who was just in here, she just dropped off some lunch for me. If she said, "Hey babe, will you go get a new outfit for Brandon or for Parker?" And I went to Home Depot, I could be the best dad in the world, and I'm screwed because I went to the wrong place. My best case scenario is coming home with like a tarp and some rope, right? This is just a terrible situation, right? So, but if instead I went to Target or I went to Walmart or Babies R or whatever the kids store Carter's is, I could be the worst father. I could actually not even care. I could be like a bad, evil father, and I would come home with something that actually helped. All right. So it's not your intention that matters. It's your execution that matters. So you've got to pick the right market. So that's the first thing. You got to pick a market that serves your goals. If you live in an expensive market, over 80% of America lives in a major metro. All right, so Dallas, Portland, Nashville, the Bay Area, you're screwed because let's say you could buy a $500,000 house and you could rent it out for 2,200 bucks a month. Well, there are markets that you could rent it out for 2,200 bucks a month and you're only paying $150,000 for that house. Which one do you think is going to cash flow more? All right, that one's going to cash flow the smaller market or the lower priced house. So when you talk about like how do you find and vet contractors, that's assuming that you're doing this remotely. I mean, I guess it'll apply to locally as well. But my key here is get referrals. When you're finding contractors, the biggest thing that you're trying to protect from, and this is a risk component, or when we talked about the pain of something happening and the likelihood that it happens. What you're trying to protect from is someone taking your money or not being good at what they're doing. Because trust as well, trust, you're trying to find somebody you can trust. Trust is made up of two things as well: character and competence. All right. So character being, are they a good person or are they going to try and screw me? And competence, do they know what they're doing? All right. Like my brother, he's my best friend. He's awesome. I would not let him operate on my brain because he's an idiot when it comes to brain surgery. I just wouldn't let him do that. But I would give him my kid if I get hit by a bus tomorrow because he's a great father and he's a really good man. So that's what we're talking about here is, can I trust this contractor? Am I going to get scammed? And is this person, do they actually know what they're doing? Or are they just trying really hard and frankly, they just suck at it? Because I've experienced both. My first contractor walked off with 12 grand. And so I ran face into a brick wall because I didn't know how to do this. Now I figured it out. So what I recommend on finding contractors is get a referral. Do whatever it takes to get a referral from another investor. So an investor that's used them. So the most practical way you can do this is go to a real estate investors group, Facebook group. Go to a real estate investors Facebook group for the market that you're focused on, and just post one question. Say, "Attention investors." So you're calling out the person that you care about. Attention investors. What contractors have you worked with that you had a great experience with? All right, you're going to get one of three responses. Either, or there will be one of three responses. Two of them you will receive. One is they'll respond and say, "I worked with so and so. They're awesome." Another would be, "I worked with so and so. They're horrible and they took all my money and now I'm homeless." All right, like the extremes. And then in between is the most common response, which is they don't care enough to say anything. You're never going to know what those people are, but you will get the extremes. So if you get the people that are trying to screw you, you put them on your red list, you don't use them. But it's weird that someone would go out of their way to advocate for somebody that's like a contractor. Like, why would you do that? Someone's asking, "Who have you used?" And you come in and someone comes in and says, "Man, these people are so awesome. I've been using them for 15 years. It took so long for me to find them. They're awesome." Perfect. That's a big deal because if another investor has used them for a long time, that means that they have vetted them for you, right? You just ride their coattails, ride them off into the sunset, right? Now, you might get some people, if you're doing this for contractors or property managers, whatever, you'll have some contractors, property managers, they'll say, "Use me. You love me. I'm awesome. I'm great at this. Let's be best friends." That's fine. That's at least a data point to work with, but you want referrals. Now, in the case that that doesn't work, so you post in Facebook groups or whatever group it is, and you don't get any referrals because Facebook's weird about their throttling of activity. I mean, I've got a group of 5,000 people in a Facebook group, and even if I do the at everyone, maybe 300 people see it. So, Facebook's weird with that. So not everybody would see it. Go in and use the search function. So this is my pro tip. Go in and use the search function and search to find active investors. So if you find a post that, you put assignment of contract, that means a wholesaler is posting a property to sell to somebody. Go look at who's commenting on that and say, "Hey, I want to buy this property," or, "Hey, they send the details over to this email." Send them a DM. Send them a DM. Reply to that to their name, because if you're not friends with them, it's going to go straight into their message requests, which is just the abyss. It's like the dark web, not the dark web, but the gray web, if you will. So reply to that comment, say, "Hey, I just sent you a DM." Send them a DM and say, "Hey, I saw it looks like you're an active investor in this market. What are you investing in? Are you doing short-term rentals? I'm just getting into the market and trying to build out my team. Do you have a good contractor in mind? Do you have a contractor you use that you've been really happy with? What's been your experience?" All right. Heck, even in our rental roadmap community, someone asked this about Dayton. New investor investing in Dayton said, "Hey, who's using the good property manager? Who would you recommend?" And one of the girls responded, Jessica Hoffman, said, "Hey, I use this person as a property manager. They're fine. They're just fine. They're not awesome. They're not like blowing my mind, but they're also not causing any problems. Right? You could probably find somebody better, but in a pinch, they're a great option." That amount of context is insane. Like that's a lot of context. So that's what I'd say on helping find and vet contractors. Boom, awesome, sweet, cool. Yeah, Jay, no worries. Yeah, sure. Yeah, send over a deal and I'll analyze it. Make sure to include, if you can, a link to the property and then what your exit plan is. Like, are you trying to wholesale this deal? Is it a burr? Is it a flip? Whatever it is, and I'll run through my process. Okay, cool. Trying to understand from perspective, great resources, webpage, and all ready to get going, buy a property. So, do you coach just me trying to understand? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, awesome. Okay. So, Martin, yeah, we can have a conversation as well and set aside some time. Let's see. Let me show you where to do that. This. Yeah. If you go to 90dayrentalroadmap.com, go through there, fill out that application and set some time to talk with either me or my team. Here's the link, but I'll tell you what we do and what kind of our sweet spot is. Okay, pulling that up, and then as let's see what Jay, as you send information over, I'll answer your question after Martin's. because really what we do is, we teach people how to buy cash flowing rental properties. That's our sweet spot. And so we teach new and experienced investors how to find the best deals from anywhere in any economy. We teach them how to buy those deals with none of their own money and how to prevent mistakes that are super costly and painful. And so what we're trying to do is like we're preventing those mistakes so that you don't end up sinking right out the gate. And the way that we're doing that, like those are kind of our three pillars. But the way that we're doing that is by making everything systematized and automated in a number of ways. And so that the specialty there is we want to do this without creating another job. And so there are some people out there that are like, hey, let me teach you how to wholesale. Some people out there are like, let me teach you how to flip, quit your job, and just flip homes. The people that I work with, because this was my story, I was working a good job and I wasn't in a position to just quit my job and just do this. And so I did it on the side. I spent 3 to 6 hours a week buying properties, and I retired 2 years. I replaced my income. I earned, I was working as an engineer in business development at a tech company. So the goal here is to do that without replacing your job. All right. So how to find the best deals in any from anywhere in any economy, how to buy those deals without any of your own money if you need to, and then how to prevent mistakes that are going to cost you a ton of money in both actual money and just your sanity, all without creating another job. And so that's what we focus on. It includes courses, it includes community. So in fact, I'll let me do this real quick. Bring up some. I don't know that I'll really need to share this or anything on the screen, but the type of stuff that it actually includes, man, it really is insane what it includes. Because I've taught people from all over the country, California, New York, Oregon, Florida, to even Hawaii, and they all use the same process and they're killing it. They get great results. But like I mentioned, if you start out with the wrong process on the front end or the wrong market, then you're screwed. And so that's one of the things with finding great deals in from anywhere in any economy. You can be anywhere. I buy properties remotely, and I haven't physically been at probably 80% of my doors, right? And you can do that remotely. It's not nearly as challenging as you might think. I've charged 8 grand just for teaching people how to find great deals from anywhere in any economy. So the second thing that we teach, we talk about how to do that without relying on your own money. Because one of the biggest reasons for me that I didn't get started is I thought it took a bunch of money to get started. And I just didn't come from money. That just wasn't part of our story. It wasn't like this terrible, we had a great childhood. It was awesome. Like I just loved it. But we didn't have a ton of money. So it wasn't until years later I realized like I didn't need my own money. I just needed really good deals, and then people would show up. Like I could find the money from somebody else. And even now, I still don't use a bunch of my own money. The money that I do make on properties, I cycle back into real estate to be able to expand my portfolio. And so that's what I teach my students to do, and they're just killing it. So we're teaching people how do you buy deals without your own money. I'm also giving you access to my lender vault to fund all your deals. And then I also, just for my students, I give them access to my private money lenders. So these are individuals that are lending their own money. When you look out there in kind of the real estate world, there's hard money lenders and private money lenders. Hard money lenders are institutions. They are kind of like mini banks that are optimized for real estate transactions, particularly on the flip front, flip or BRRRRs. Private money lenders are individuals loaning their own money. So some hard money lenders will say, we're a private lender or what, but they're really not. The private money lenders that I connect them, these private money lenders fund 100% of the purchase, 100% of the rehab, and 100% of the closing costs if there's room in the deal. That by itself, I think, I've charged more than this, but I think 15 grand is a really, really great deal on that. I think that's like just dirt cheap. And with those first two things, like the finding deals and financing them, it's literally fixing two of the hardest parts of getting started in real estate. But even if you have that upside, if you screw it up because you're making mistakes, you're going to lose all of it. So So the third thing we're teaching you how to protect from making those mistakes that honestly you just should have known about in the first place. But the thing is, you don't know that you know that you don't know that you should know them, right? There are issues that you knew you needed to avoid, and then there are things that you didn't know that you didn't know. Those are the scary ones because those are the ones that can jump up and you're like, I didn't even know that I was supposed to avoid that. I get if I knew that I was supposed to avoid something and I try to avoid it, but I screw it up, I get it. But I didn't even know, right? These types of mistakes literally cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you get to learn how to, you get to learn from that without actually having to lose the money, which is the best part of it. So, because the upside of real estate is so clear. Like you look at the history of U.S. real estate and you just say, like, man, look how insanely awesome that is. You just have to know how to protect your downside. And so that's what we're doing. So we're teaching you like what are the what ifs? We're putting numbers to the what ifs. And then, we're teaching actually how to analyze and underwrite deals. In fact, we'll go through Jay's deal if he sends it over. So these the surprise costs that we're talking about, protecting from, most of them are completely preventable, and you should know them ahead of time. And like the newer investors, most of they just don't know how to protect themselves from these costs. And so what they end up doing is they just keep analyzing deal after deal after deal to try and get more and more information because they know they're missing out on something that's going to cost them tons of money. And they're right. They are going to miss out on something. And so what we're doing is we're making this a math decision, not an emotion decision. So you should know when you buy a property, and this is part of this process, is you should know within 50 bucks a month what you're going to make on that property before you even offer on it in cash flow. And you should know within $1,000 how much money is coming out of your pocket to make that happen. Like it should be that accurate before you even offer on a property. And so this is where people that really struggle with analysis paralysis, it fixes all of that. Like that was part of my story. Typically, people that are more analytical in nature, careers like doctors, chiropractors, financial people in finance or financial advisors, engineers, scientists, people that are more analytical in nature, they really struggle with analysis paralysis. And really, that's like we talked about earlier, that's just fear. It's just scared of making the wrong decision, whether it's scared of making the wrong decision and losing money, or most of the time it's a personal cost. It's scared of making the wrong decision. Yeah, losing money, but I'll look stupid, or my spouse will get mad at me, or like when I quit my W-2, my biggest fear was that I was going to lose all our money and my wife was going to resent me. We had recently gotten married, and that was my biggest fear. And when I finally identified that and shared that with her, she was like, "That's crazy." Because if you saw that we were going down a path that we shouldn't be going down, you would adjust. Like you've got two engineering degrees and you're an engineer that can communicate, which is basically, an alien. Like you're gonna be fine. You'll get a good job. And so that helped me move through it. But that's what we do on the prevention side of things. Like if, and to put a value to that, like if your first deal was $100,000, think like how much would you screw it up, right? You call it 10%, 20%, 30% if you didn't know what you were doing. I think it's really gracious to say 10% if you don't know what you're doing. So that's $10,000. So that would be worth $10,000 out the gate. I think it's probably worth closer to 50, but that number just seems insane to most people. So we'll just say $10,000. So just right there, teaching you how to buy good deals, how to buy them without like first of all, from anywhere in any economy, because it does not matter. Like people complain about the economy right now in real estate. Like they're the same people that were complaining about the economy in 2020, right? Prices are too high. It's hard to get money is what it's the same excuses the entire way. But if people are actually doing it, they're not complaining about it because they realize new constraints just create new opportunities. All right. So there are so many opportunities out there. In fact, I just talked earlier today with a student that's closing on a property on Friday. He's going to be out of pocket $0. And so they're just all over the place. So just with those things, that's like over $30,000 of value. And that's not even the biggest part of the whole program. Like the kind of thing that ties those three pillars together is doing it without creating another job. So, if you end up with 100 doors, but you're working 80 hours a week to make those 100 doors work, like we lost. Like your goal was to make yourself free, and instead you put on gold handcuffs. And that's your goal is to buy your time back, not just create more headaches for yourself. So we're giving you the systems, the processes, the automations that you need so that you don't end up just creating another job for yourself. And so that means two things. One, with these systems, you can do it in 3 to 6 hours a week. It's optimized for somebody that works a full-time job and the money's consistent. They're not worrying like, how am I going to feed somebody next week? But it does have to be a top priority, right? I contend everybody's got between 3 and 5 main priorities in their life. So you got your family, you got your work, and then between capacity, like you've got maybe 1 to 3 more, right? We got a newborn at home, so we're probably 3 priorities, right? Because we're just trying to figure out how to sleep, all right, with family and everything like that. So it's got to be one of those main priorities. If you're not ready to prioritize it at that level, I think, the using the community and the Rentals to Wealth group is great. But it's just, you've got to make that decision to say it's either at that level of priority or it's not. And but the systems are built for people, full-time jobs. They're working 40-ish, 40, 60 hours a week, whatever. And they can allocate 3 to 6 hours a week toward this. Second is it gives you the systems for managing your portfolio should take 30 minutes a month. Once you like there's two sides of it. There's the finding new properties and there's managing your existing properties. The portfolio management, less than 30 minutes a month. That's what it is for me. It's review the P&L, make sure you're not bleeding, and if you are, make some adjustments. But that's it. Acquiring the new properties is what takes 3 to 6 hours a week. And I think you should be getting a door every 90 days, really conservatively. Once you know what you're doing, you can absolutely just cruise. I mean, I've got Brandon Williams went 0 to $2,700 a month. In fact, if you go to blakeswaney.com/wall of fame, you can see a bunch of their stories. In fact, you let me send it to you. Da, 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 da. Because Brandon's one of them. He built 2,700 bucks a month in cash flow in 90 days, just killed it. Jordan's another one. He went 10 doors in 6 months. He's about to go full-time real estate investing. Dean, he's full-time real estate investing. He's the guy I was talking about. He didn't he didn't have a high school degree, and now he's full-time doing real estate investing, spending more time with his kids and everything like that. So um, that's what I'm talking about there. So that whole system right there, uh, like you got to ask yourself, like, how much would that really be worth? Like if you had 5, 10, $20,000 a month hitting your bank like clockwork, think about how much that would be worth to you. Like, and then add that to, whatever it was, the 30 so $1,000 of value you're already getting. So that's what we do. That's what the whole program is. The way that we do it, and yeah, demo this is, yeah. So the way that we do it, we've got courses that help build the foundation. You're going to get step-by-step videos. They walk you through the entire process from like choosing your market and not just, hey, go choose your market. It's a data-driven approach. I'm teaching you how do you find the rent to price ratio for the actual market itself, because rent to price ratio is the metric that tells us the likelihood of a property or a market to cash flow. So we're going through 3 steps: the top-down method, the economic analysis, and the bottom-up method, and then you pick from there. And so it's a scienced approach. So it's simple and reproducible. That's the goal, because God forbid I get hit by a bus tomorrow. I want you to be able to do this on your own. And that's not normal in this space. And the reason it's not normal is because most people haven't done it. They just like they got 1 door or 2 doors, and then they're start coaching people or teaching people. And if you're not actually doing it and you haven't actually done it, you can't, like, if you asked me to teach you how to get a 6 pack, I don't have a 6 pack. Like, why would you listen to me? You know what I mean? I'd be like, yeah, sure, have that ice cream. You know what I mean? Or like, what, like Thanksgiving's coming up. Like, I don't know how to get you a 6 pack. My mom's stuffing is unbelievable. There's no way I can really coach somebody through that. And you need somebody that's got an experienced perspective. So I'm giving you that step-by-step process that'll help with the analysis paralysis, analyzing deals, managing contractors, raising your own private money. I'm literally walking you through the whole step by step, just like I would if we were having coffee together. So this course is we've got you get access to a private community. These are where the students are going to network. You'll share deals. I can multiple dozens of deals I can think of that students shared from one student to another where the other student took it down. You might say, well, why would they do that? Well, if you've got 2, 3 deals under your belt, like right now under rehab, and you're like, I don't want to take on any more because my capacity, I want to spend it with my family or whatever. You said, this looks like a good deal. I could leave it for State Street, Vanguard, or like BlackRock, or like those big private equity companies, or I can hand it off to somebody I like, hand it off to somebody I like. So that's what the community looks like. I mean, you're partnering together all with people all across the country. Most people that want to start investing in real estate, they don't have somebody in their life that does this. So starting out it feels lonely and it feels crazy. At least that's what it did for me. There's no way that, like, they feel like there's no way that they can do it. The community gets you around other people that are closing deals so that it just becomes normal. We've got niche groups like accountability groups, market specific groups. So other people in your market where you can just say, like I said earlier, hey, who do you use for property management? Who do you use for a contractor, right? We have a wealthy women group so that you can get connected with other people, like niche groups like that. You can connect with other people that are similar to you, so you don't have to do it alone. You get actual accountability. We have somebody on my team that's specific role is focused on your success. So they check in with you weekly on your goals. What are your goals this week? How did they go? So from last week, how'd your goals last week go? Why did they go that way? Whether it's well or poorly, help you analyze why did it go that way, and then what are your goals for this week? All right, that's their 100%. Their focus is that. We're also going to set you up with an accountability cohort of other students so that you can just link arms with them, and they help you stay on track with your goals and maintain momentum. You know, when people join groups like that, even with the rentals to wealth, people want accountability because life is hard, and you've got all these priorities in your life and you're trying to manage everything, but you need some help maintaining your own accountability. Not because you can't do it, but it's kind of like when you talk to somebody just to process through a goal or process through an idea. It's not because you couldn't do that if you were the other person. It's just the nature of talking to that other person. And so you're doing that in your accountability cohorts while you're also building relationships with other people in the community. I have people that I was in masterminds with 10 years ago that I still keep up with because of that, because you get to know them more significantly where you're like, why didn't you what was it that kept you from reaching your goals? And it comes out like, man, I was just scared. I'm just like really nervous, or I'm just like really scared that A, B, or C. And you get to know somebody more personally. So that's on the accountability side. You get hands-on, like practical coaching. Like that starts right when you join. We're not just throwing you in the deep end with hundreds of hours of trainings and secret software, whatever. Like I meet with you directly to define your personal strategy, cater to your goals and your constraints, and I'm coaching you through what disciplines you need to be doing consistently to be successful. Because what I don't want is somebody joining the program and investing in the program and saying, "Oh, now it's all done." That's when it begins, right? And so I want to make sure that you're successful. If someone's like, "Oh, I'm just going to kind of like I'll just do it later," just don't join. Like figure out when it's a priority for you and do it later. So you get access to the expert, and not only that, you get coaching from other experts on my team, both in the community, but then also junior coaches that are actually doing that same thing, like who have already gone where you want to go and can show you, like give you an experience perspective, walk you through how to get there. And then the other component is you get access to my private lenders. Not only like I've raised tens of millions of dollars. I want to say $100 million, but I don't know for sure, and I'm unwilling to say something that it's true that when it's not true. So, or might not be true. So I've definitely raised tens of millions of dollars in private money lending, and I'll teach you exactly how to do it yourself. It's more of a science than it is an art. I'm teaching you how to do it yourself. And on top of that, I'm giving you access to my lenders, right? So you get my lender vault, and then you get access to my private money lenders so that they can fund your deals. They're consistently funding deals at 100% of purchase, rehab, closing out. We just had someone fund the other day. So even if you're brand new to investing, you've got options for financing your deals, which is just a game changer. And then we've got weekly Zoom calls like this every single week, multiple, some led by me, some by other coaches, some led by guest speakers. That way you get direct access to me and my coaching. You get direct access to other experts that have gone like Brandon Williams, 0 to 2,700 bucks a month in cash flow in 90 days. He's one of the junior coaches. He coaches one of them. So you get direct access to them to get feedback on your questions. Because one of the big problems that I see is people just using YouTube or books or podcasts. Those are awesome resources. They're great. They suck at feedback, right? So if you're like, I think to a certain point, they become vanity things for people with analysis paralysis. They keep learning instead of just doing. And so if that's you, I think it's really worth having a conversation to figure out, is this a priority for you and how can we help you? Because you're not going to make any progress. Those things are good resources, but you can't call up the author and be like, hey, chapter 4 isn't working for me. Like you've got to actually do those things. And so that's what the Zoom calls are for and what the community's for. And then of course we got documents and systems. Like we've got processes, contracts and templates that we spent lots of money having attorneys review so that you don't have to. And we just give them to you. So that's what that looks like. As far as cost goes, what you're getting, we've got how to find those deals. I mentioned that's 8 grand. How to get them without your own money, 15 grand. Access to my private lenders. I've sold that previously for 10 grand. Preventing mistakes, at least 10 grand. The tools and like contracts and systems and everything, that's at least 10 grand. So like we're looking at like that, not even counting the fact that we are going to send you deals. Like we've built out a system to send you off-market deals. I think we sent almost 100 last week of off-market deals to students. So you're just getting them in your inbox. It's like almost done for you. It's done with you, but done for you. Um, Even without that and without the value of the community and accountability and whatnot, that's over 50 grand. All right. So I'm not going to charge you that. But if you think about that, like with that support and resources, how many deals do you think you could do? You know what I mean? Like that's a lot of resources. So you might be thinking 4 deals or 8 deals or maybe Dean who set his goal at 10 deals in 12 months and ended up killing it. But let's just say you get one deal. That's like one burr. That's like 50 grand of equity right there. Call it 40 grand of appreciation. You got some cash flow and debt pay down in there. A flip, the average flip in the United States is just north of $60,000. Even turnkeys, 20% down, like they're returning 57% in the first year as far as the total return on investment. So, one deal will get you that investment back. It would get that $53,000 investment back in with one deal. And so you got to ask your question like, can I do one deal? You got to decide on whether you're going to bet on you. So we've got different tiers of coaching depending on where you're at, what you need. They range anywhere from 7 grand to 40 grand. Might sound like a lot of money, but here's the truth. Like in real estate, one deal can pay for whatever it is, whether it's marketing, whether it's the program, whether it's coaching, whatever it is, it can easily cover that. And it can, I know one deal changed my life. My first deal changed my life. And I think that can happen for you too. So man, I just think time is the thing I can't get back. In fact, on that, in fact, Jay, we're gonna have to analyze the deal later. In fact, or maybe I can send it over as a video in the community, and I'll tag you, Jay, because I know we're running out of time. But I can always make more money. I can't make more time. And so, the quicker that you can get your first, fifth, 10th door, the sooner you're going to be able to realize your dreams. More time with your kids, taking care of your parents, or starting a business or nonprofit volunteer, whatever it is. But also, if money's an issue, money's kind of tight, we can work with you on a payment plan. Don't let that be the reason that you don't get into coaching. So if that's something that you're interested in, anybody else on the call, but particularly Martin, go to 90dayrentalroadmap.com, fill out the application form. I've got a video there. You you don't have to watch the whole thing. It's like 20 minutes. I just gave you kind of the fast version. So just go ahead and fill out the application and book some time. And you might tell you'll either meet with me or one of the guys, Justin, on my team. It'll probably be Justin just because my availability is a little bit lower with baby at home. So tell him, hey, I was on the Q&A. Blake kind of gave me some of the overview, and then you guys can talk about whether or not it's a good fit for you. But yeah, it's been a complete life changer for us. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. I know I appreciate Jay. Let's see, first time, so I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I don't have the link. Okay, can you demo and walk us through your system to visualize what it means and what it's like on daily tasks? Um, yeah, I guess it depends on what you mean by system. So the courses, the online courses, those are at blakeswanee.com. You would log in there, and I can show you those at some point. We do have to wrap up, but we also have our community. We use a tool called Slack, and in fact, I've heard some chirps come over, and I'm not sure if you guys heard it on your end. But if that's something that you want and you're interested in, like, man, I want to see how this works, set some time. Go to 90-day rental roadmap. That link that I sent you. In fact, I'll send it again. Boom, here. Go there, set some time, and we'll get you taken care of. We'll make sure that you've got everything that you need to figure out whether or not it's a good fit for you. But it's got to be a priority for you. If it's not a priority for you, just that's not wrong. That's not bad. Like heck, life is crazy. So you might have more like other stuff on your plate. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this month's Q&A. Thanks for coming. If you guys have questions, send them over in the community. I'll help you get them taken care of. And next month's Q&A, I might even do this. I really like this stuff, so I might even do this more frequently. But send over your questions at blakeswanee.com/ask. If you want to see some stories, go to blakeswanee.com. At the top, you can see the student success or the Wall of Fame. I sent the link over here. Check it out. I'm telling you, these people are just like you. And as much as I might say, like, I'm just like you too, it's probably just harder for you to understand. I mean, like I got kids at home, they're throwing spaghetti on the walls or whatever it is, but like these people, they pull their pants up one leg at a time. Uh, they're just like you. So go check out their stories, and hopefully that's an encouragement to you to say like, man, I freaking can do this. Like these guys, they're just like me. So go look at some of their stories. And if you got questions on how it works, go to 90dayrentalroadmap.com, set some time, and we'll get